The road to hell is paved with good intentions. What is a real-life example of this? Story 1. Once upon a time I found a wallet on the beach. Having lost my own more than once and not having it returned to me, I am aware that it is a stressful life event. So my first thought was how to return it quickly. Looking through the contents, the owner was from out of state, and there was no contact information other than the driver's license. Aside from that, only a few credit cards and some cash. Not knowing how long ago the owner had left, I thought let's just sit here for a while, and maybe he will return looking for it since it is the first thing I would do. After a couple hours of fun and sun, we needed to move on. My next best idea was to turn it into the local police station, which we found easily enough just down the street. What I thought would be a quick in and out turned into a full-on interrogation session, during which I was, at one point, accused of theft/robbery. It was a bizarre experience, to say the least, which wasted an hour of our day. Story 2. A man named Dr. Spock wrote a handbook for child rearing. It was widely circulated and well received. Many of our parents likely got their child rearing advice from this book. In it, he recognized that babies throw up a lot, and therefore recommended newborns be laid on their stomachs to sleep. Unknowingly, this would result in the accidental smothering deaths of thousands of newborns. A huge number of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome cases, can be laid at his feet. To this day, the Back to Sleep campaign is still fighting to update parents on what we now know. Newborns should sleep on their backs until they can reliably roll over for themselves. Story 3. Bounties for killing invasive animals. You have a bunch of animals you don't want, so you pay people for each animal they kill, usually by getting them to produce the carcass or a unique body part. People then start breeding said animal, as it's easier and more lucrative than catching them in the wild. The authorities find out and stop the bounty program. So the breeder let all their newly bred invasive animals into the wild. Situation is now worse than before. There's a famous example involving cobras in India, IIRC. They also tried this with rabbits in the area I used to live as a kid. In this case, no breeding was required as the bounty drop-off point was the local police station. You'd go in with a bag of cute bunny tails. The officer on duty would count the tails and pay you for each tail. He'd then take the bag of tails round the back of the station and pop them in the dumpster. At which point, a friend of the bounty hunter would dive into the dumpster, retrieve the tails, go into the police station by the front door, and repeat the cycle with the just retrieved set of tails. Story 4. For years in all weather, I walk our dog around the block in front of our house. There are so many dog walkers in the neighborhood it's crazy sometimes. At one house, the parents would be out on the porch, and their 4 or 5-year-old son would be playing in the driveway and would ask me questions about my little dog, who always chose the telephone pole in front of their driveway to pee on. More than once the mother came flying off the porch screaming for the kid to get back in the house. I mean, there wasn't vehicle anywhere in sight that I could have used to abduct him in. It was just me. An unforgivably basic middle-aged woman in knee-length shorts, a t-shirt and flip-flops, with a little fluffy dog on a leash. A day after one of Mom's freakouts, the kid approaches my dog, and turns to his parents and yells, "Is this the lady you said was scary and I shouldn't talk to?" I just looked at them and laughed, but I noticed that they literally never sat out on the porch again, and the kid was never in front of their house again. WTF kind of damage does that do to a kid? Story 5. Hawaii resident here. It's been the bane of our existence. Invasive species goes all the way back to Polynesians. They brought pigs and chickens for food. They cause all sorts of problems now that they are wild. We also have mongoose. Rats were decimating the local bird population, so the government released mongoose to handle the problem. However, mongoose are diurnal and rats are nocturnal. So instead of going after the rats, they went after the birds. Cats. Brought as pets, now they are an ecological menace. They love eating the local birds. See a pattern? Edit. Rats eat bird eggs, not the birds themselves. It has the same impact to the population, though. Story 6. Those parents who solve all their kids' issues and don't make them stress about consequences of their own actions. Their kids just turn into inept and entitled adults who still act 15 for decades, and not only have a harder life for themselves, but make life miserable for everyone around them too. Edit. 1. Yes, it's bad to go too far the other way. Raising a child is a balancing act. I get that. But ignoring a child isn't usually from good intentions while spoiling them often is. And that was the prompt. 2. If this sounds like it happened to you, I promise you that you can get yourself out of the cycle. It sucks, and it hurts, and it's unpleasant, but you can do it if you want to. Get ready to fail, and then keep trying anyway. Persistence will be a new skill, and you will be bad at it. And that's okay. You didn't do this to yourself. You don't need to feel shame. Digging yourself out, however, is something you'll be doing yourself, and you can take pride in every step you make at the right direction. Story 7. Since the abysmal performance of American schools has been in the news recently, No Child Left Behind, and its replacement Every Student Succeeds Act, America has never had really good public education, but it used to be serviceable. NCLB came in to try and create some milestones in accountability. Instead, it made the problem worse. ECSS came in and tried to address its problems, but changed the stuff that wasn't the problem and left the bad parts unscathed. Taken all together, 57% of high school graduates can't read at a 7th grade reading level, and over a quarter are functionally illiterate. Story 8. On a personal scale, trying to help a really drunk person. I'm a woman and talkative, and I started talking to another woman at a bar who was really drunk. She told me her friends deserted her, so I said she could hang out with me and my friends as it was my birthday, to keep an eye on her and because she seemed fun. Then she started falling off of chairs and spilling drinks, so I encouraged her to get a cab. She started crying how everyone hates her as I was helping her outside, but agreed to go home. I got a cab, paid for it because she was a mess, and all of a sudden she got really violent and ended up kicking me in the face trying to get out of the cab because she wasn't done. She pushed me and told me to fuck off, but ultimately sat back down in the cab crying. We had already exchanged numbers, so the next day she texted me apologizing profusely and asking if we could stay friends. I told her I appreciated her apology, but no thanks. I will always try to help people where I can, but that turned me off from going above and beyond. Plus, you can rarely rationalize with really drunk and upset people. Story 9. Most moral panics. Stranger danger. Convincing people in the 1970s-90s that hundreds of thousands of American children were being yoinked into random cars by evil strangers each year, while downplaying and underfunding the resources that could actually help decrease child abduction. Child abductions not only never came anywhere near those huge numbers, but it was and still is nearly always a custodial issue, or a very close family member. Teaching people to be wary of kidnapping is great. Directing all their fears toward vague, spooky strangers and not helping people learn how to actually prevent kidnapping is kinda shit. Story 10. During one of China's extreme dry seasons, think of their Dust Bowl period, Mao ordered the killing of birds to prevent bird-eating seeds, and so increase agricultural productivity. Instead, what happened is that birds that feeded on plants' pests were killed, making the situation even worse and resulting on the death of millions. A bad dry season, deforestation, misuse of pesticides, and a war against nature under his belief that conquering nature was the way to improve agricultural yield, and so the well-being of their citizens. Stupid, uninformed decisions, even if seemingly rational to a layman, resulting in one of the biggest human and ecological cost disasters. We still making such decisions from time to time, sometimes for profit on the belief that such will benefit all, and sometimes for genuine good reasons. Story 11. My neighbor who is supposedly getting evicted soon. Basically, she saw young drug addicts, 30-year-olds, as people she could change for the better. She'd find them somewhere and bring them home. Evidently, the idea was that she could show them a warm apartment and good food, and they would realize the error of their ways and change for the better. That or a safe place to do their drugs. We had a door code so they could come in and knock on her door until she answered. It was a constant stream of strange people going in and out of her room all night long. I figured it wasn't my problem. People can do what they want if they aren't hurting anyone else. But then, 3 of the men decided to take advantage of her because it's not like she could physically kick them out herself. And she wouldn't call the police. These are people who don't want to change. They like their lifestyle, and she gave them an upgrade. We are pretty sure they are doing meth in there. They come back at 1:30 a.m. and either snort something or smoke something that from the hallway smells like cat pee or paint thinner. Then they scream bloody murder, throw things, and have domestics until 11 a.m., like clockwork. Police can't actively go into the room, and even people on the top floor are calling them. Landlord and management is doing his best to get them out, but that's a lengthy process. They disabled the door code, but they are still getting in. Even the girl has been taken to the hospital for overdosing a few times. Threats of murder-suicide are common. Anything not nailed down in the gym and lobby are getting trashed and stolen. Lobby bathroom is trashed constantly. Cars in the parking lot are being broken into, and catalytic converters are being stolen. These men stalk around the parking lot watching people. We do have visitor rules, which are being broken. It's going to get worse before it gets better. Everyone expects to hear bullets fly any time now. My goodwill is gone. We want her out.